Everyone, welcome to SOLIDWORKS Delivery Day. My name is Sean O'Neill, and your name is?
Jesse Sprague.
Welcome. Hey, Jesse, this is not our usual studio, is it?
It is not.
We got a special experience today.
We do. We've got a window behind us, which for one is nice.
Yeah,
Out of that cave.
that's the big adjustment that we have to offer you today. So I'm glad.
What's new?
Glad you tuned in. Yes, in July. What's new? Windows in the background. No, this is of course the July release, the July episode of SOLIDWORKS Delivery Day, showcasing 2026 FD03 of SOLIDWORKS, and we should probably actually describe where we are, right? So we are at VATN Systems. VATN Systems is a SOLIDWORKS customer. We're based in Rhode Island. We are in Rhode Island right now. They have multiple facilities in Rhode Island. We're going to tell you a little bit more about VATN Systems and also introduce you to one of their engineers in a special segment that we have for all of you SOLIDWORKS users out there for this particular episode. But firstly, just want to thank the entire VATN team for letting us into their very open facilities. It's always cool to go around to different customers, just go on customer sites, because you get to see like how different engineering teams work. Like I was telling you, Jesse, I got to tour around a little bit yesterday, and the entire engineering team kind of just works in the same area, like just all different desks, like nice monitors that, some people are working on SOLIDWORKS. Some people are, working on like more of the software side of things. So it was really cool to see like everyone is very much working in parallel with each other, like in the same kind of that.
Yeah, literally in parallel. We can see them all of them at once right now.
Yeah, and you guys will too. You're probably thinking, it's nice you guys have windows and this nice backdrop, right? But are we actually going to see like anything from VATN Systems? You're going to see quite a lot here. So that brings us really to today's goals for the episode. So there's really two big goals. One of them is very predictably to showcase, to deliver to you today, delivery day, right? Delivery to you today, the best of what's new in SOLIDWORKS 2026 FD03.
Which frankly is quite a bit.
There's a lot. Yeah, we did more of like an internal episode here at SOLIDWORKS and for your reseller partners as well a couple weeks ago for the FD03 release. And I would say particularly with AI and multi-user enhancements, there's a lot.
Yeah,
there is a lot there.
Yeah, I presented last in that session, and by the time I went to talking, it's like,
yeah, it's like, gosh, it's like we've been going for like 2.5 hours. Jesse's like, all right, I got my enhancement. We're gonna go with
it. Almost was, yeah.
Yeah, which for Visualize, we'll talk about for SOLIDWORKS Visualize. It's one of the biggest enhancements I would say in years.
Yeah, I agree.
For Visualize. We have one for you there, but yeah, that's part of it. Like just to showcase the best of SOLIDWORKS 2026 FD03. The other part is to go behind the scenes with VATN's design, build, and test workflows. So if you've never been to Rhode Island, there's quite a lot of water here. I think it's called the Ocean State, right?
It is an island. Is it an island?
Yeah. Well, fact check us here. I can say
it's named an island.
Yeah, it is the Ocean State. There's quite a lot of water. I saw a lot of water riding in today. But given what they do, which I'll talk about now, it's very important that they're by the water. So they have their design, engineering, manufacturing all on site where we are here. And then they also have another facility where they do a lot of their on the water testing. So what they do is they build autonomous underwater systems. So they build UUVs and they focus on scalable real world underwater operation. So a lot of that though is that they have to design, test parts, for example, parts that they're prototyping. They print them same day and then they drive, 10, 15 minutes to the water to be able to test them in their vessels same day. Which when they told me that, I was like, that's not something that I typically hear from a given customer using almost any product, right?
Yeah, even just having the proximity to where you would need to test is, like you said, it's critical that they be here by the water, but it's a cool setup.
Yeah, and they have a lot of different, and you'll learn more as the episode goes on, a lot of different product lines, a lot of different industries that they serve. And in terms of relatability, even if you're not building, underwater robotics like they are, like they're working with complex systems like a lot of you are out there. They have a lot of different constraints having to work and operate within the water, which sometimes I take for granted, like how much harder it can be to build for like the deeper sea.
Yeah, especially salt water.
Especially salt water, yeah. As opposed to some things that we'll show you on delivery day, typically design decisions that have to kind of live outside of the office. Like we try to make, vignettes and demos that showcase the best of what's new in real world capacities. But this is an actual customer out there building for, the deep sea, for the ocean, and using SOLIDWORKS in that capacity. So we're excited to have someone to give you more of an industry feel during this episode. So today we'll show once again new SOLIDWORKS enhancements, and we'll have them covered really in like 3 primary categories. First section we're going to do right after this welcome is AI, which you mentioned this is a big release. AI has a lot of new enhancements, not just to what you can do, like the certain skills that your virtual companion can do, but how you use it. Like, there's some really neat examples of new capabilities that have just come out this month here in July to show you there. We'll get into some of the more core SOLIDWORKS enhancements with parts, assemblies, and drawings. And as we're going to bring in Sophie, and she is an engineer here from VATN, and we're going to ask her questions about, once again, how they build, how they design using SOLIDWORKS to give more flavor, more context for the things that you're seeing there. So again, the core SOLIDWORKS, and then we'll go into multi-user workflows. You might be wondering too, like, why do I have sunscreen? You're probably wondering, like, which sunscreen brand is this? You're probably not wondering. It's pretty obvious. But we are actually going to take you out in the water too. So I mentioned their kind of build, print, integrate into the existing vessel, and then test on the water style workflow all on the same business day. We're going to take you out there and actually see what that's like. We're going to show you some of their designs, show you how they prototype, show you how they integrate, and then actually take you out on the water, weather permitting here. It seems like a sunny day here in Rhode Island. We're going to do that for you at the end of the episode. So please stay tuned. Grab your sunscreen as we head on the boat, right, Jesse?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. So without further ado, let's talk about AI enhancements here in July with SOLIDWORKS 2026 FD03. Okay, we are back with AI and assistant level functionality in 2026 FD03. Now, once again, you might be thinking, oh, incremental release of SOLIDWORKS, sprinkle enhancements here, sprinkle enhancements there. Sometimes that's true, but with AI in this release, that is not true. Like, there are foundational changes in terms of a number of things. I would say, one, how AI works within SOLIDWORKS, specifically with virtual companions. I think it's way more user-friendly, honestly, than even FD02 was. Like, we've really reoriented some things there. And then also, like, I think we're starting to see more workflow-based examples and capabilities just altogether, which we're excited to show. But yeah.
Yeah, should we kick it off?
I think so.
All right. So we have CAD-based AI companion prompts. They're different than your everyday prompts that you might insert into your LLM du jour. But not that different, right? In FD03, you now have the option to freeform engage with Leo with increased prompt intent detection. Unsure of what Leo can do or how to ask, we've made it simple. Explore key prompt categories along with a full library of prompt examples that can help Leo help you, SOLIDWORKS.
So I rate all the solid spots, and there are two times when I laugh. One, sometimes when I'm writing them, because I always put in little things where I know Jesse's going to have a tough time. And then the second time is when you actually have a tough time getting from something.
I'm low on sleep for this episode, and I feel like you've intentionally made these a mouthful.
You're vulnerable. That's great. That's my favorite, Jesse. Okay, so this enhancement, updated virtual companion interface. Now, if this is new to you, virtual companions overall, I'm going to explain overall the concept here. So virtual companions are intended to be just that, companions that help you design, help you analyze your parts, assembly drawings. They actually have access to what's in pane. Now, the way it used to work, as of FD02 and FD01, which still are very, very recent releases, is that you basically used to go into the task pane and you used to click on like a few different skills. And instead of interacting with the virtual companion via the chat box inherently from the start, you had to basically go through the skill to be able to get to any level of capability, right? So now what's different, what you're seeing on your screen if you're watching on YouTube, is you can more freeform engage at a first pass level with the virtual companion, Leo in this case, when you're doing anything involving, mechanical design or engineering. And Leo has way more capabilities than it did even in FD02.
Yeah.
And one thing that I think to myself, kind of taking an outside perspective of this about Leo, or about really anything that's interacting with CAD, right, at an AI style chat level, is like, what can it do? What should I ask it to do? What should I try? And you can certainly do it in freeform sense, but what I'd certainly advise to do, especially if it's your first time using virtual companions, is just go into task pane and go to this example bank. So we have like key categories now that are laid out in this very modular looking interface. So you kind of go through key categories like manufacturing documentation, design validation, assembly optimization. And then each one has these prompt examples. So for example, what's wrong analysis if you have something wrong with a sketch, or how do I optimize the performance for my assembly? And you can just go directly with those examples and have it help you right then and there.
Yeah, I like the way that we've laid this out. As you mentioned previously, up until this point, you had to kind of pre-select the skill, right?
Mhm.
Which I liked, because it gives you the opportunity to know what's gonna happen. Like, what can I expect this to do, right? So it sort of gives you that idea, but it's not really a natural way, as you wrote in the very wordy SolidWorks. It's not really a natural way that people are interacting with LLMs.
You don't want to say du jour again?
Right.
Not again today?
Not again. Right. So this is a much more natural way that people are used to interacting with AI, right? But
Yeah.
we still keep with the library, we still keep that the availability of kind of knowing what you can do with it. That's the thing that I find most difficult, and I would assume that translates to a lot of people with AI. It's just, what can I do with this thing, right? It's almost too freeform sometimes, in that you're trying to get it to do things that you don't know if it can or can't do. So I like the way that we have it now, because it's a much more natural way to work with the system if you're familiar with working with any AI systems at this point. But we still have, this nice library of like, here's some things you can try. Get your feet wet with it. Try these skills and see if it can help you out in these specific instances that it's geared to work on.
There's also within that bank, SolidWorks, we've made I think a pretty healthy habit of, and there's a variety of examples you'll see throughout delivery day. We've made, I think, a pretty healthy habit of trying to actually have like conversations with you about what you want in the software.
Yeah.
There is an inherent area inside of the virtual companion interface within those prompt examples. So you can see that bank that I've kind of been terming it so far, where you can click a button to request new AI skills or features.
Oh yeah.
So like, and already I could tell stories for days about some of these skills in terms of different, at a product management level, just different customer conversations or enhancement requests that have resulted in some of these skills being added in the very early phases so far. But if you're seeing one where you're thinking, I could actually see this being automated, maybe it goes beyond a script and I need some level of reasoning, but we don't have capability today in SolidWorks or any other sort of comparable tool, then go ahead and you can select request new AI features via that prompt examples bank and tell us. And, we might reach out to you and kind of get more information, or you might just see it one day, in FD04, maybe 2027 FD01. So I wanted to call that out as well as like a little part of the demo that's like super, super easy to miss. But yeah, do you want to get to the next one?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So let's talk about it. So this is my turn to read a SolidSpot overarching style explanation, Jesse. So
We should write each other's.
Yeah.
That's what we should do.
See, that's a great idea. All right. So it's a request new delivery day feature.
Yeah.
idea.
I'll submit it.
Okay, so we're gonna get into actual AI prompt workflows, which is different. So far through delivery day overall, the only AI stuff we've shown in terms of virtual companions is just showing you like a one-off button click skill.
Yeah.
In terms of, okay, so tell me what's wrong with the sketch. Okay, press a button. It gives me some verbose idea of what's wrong with my sketch, or give me some insights about my model. This is actually connecting a stream of different insights from Leo in ways that help you with your designs. And we're going to talk through a couple of examples of that. So this one, we're saying example, AI prompt workflow, SpeedPak generation. Here is the SolidSpot. If you thought SolidWorks AI companions were merely text-based ways to click buttons in SolidWorks design, well, you're wrong. You're wrong, Jesse. The workflow you're viewing right now shows two things. One, that Leo can educate you on several ways to improve your assembly performance. And two, that it can also guide you on which remedies to implement before implementing the remedies for you. Now that is a good companion.
It sure is.
Yeah, that's a good companion. Okay, so once again, this is giving you an idea of a workflow, even if you have no idea what SpeedPak is, and we'll talk about what SpeedPak is. So it's essentially what the user in this case is doing is saying, how do I optimize this assembly? And what Leo is giving feedback on are different means to optimize the assembly in question, the assembly in the active pane, which, other AI systems, like if I were to ask like a standard LLM, like how do I optimize assemblies? It may give you like a standard answer to how do I make my assemblies quicker in SOLIDWORKS. But Leo is different in that it has insight into the exact assembly on screen, right? So it can tell you based on what it's observing about the properties of the assembly, the amount of components, graphics triangles, mates, active mates, all these sorts of things that you might generally have an idea could impact performance. What's actually going on in your assembly right now? And it can give you insights into how to fix it. Some of these insights, maybe you're thinking, oh, I know how to do that. But some of them might be like net new, like SpeedPak, right, Jesse?
Yeah. Or just one that you haven't used in a while. Like myself, I haven't used SpeedPak in quite a while, just because I haven't had a need to, right? If I went to go set up a SpeedPak myself right now, I'd have to scratch my head for a second.
Sure.
Admittedly,
go to YouTube, try to figure it out.
I'd go find it. Like, where was that button again? So I love that what you just said about, this being an integrated system, which is what we do best, right? Have tools that are purpose built and integrated. I love that being the case here because, like you said, you Google something or you go on another system to try to look for what may be the problem, right? It's okay. Here are some common problems where this is your problem, right? It's much more targeted to what you actually have going on rather than you having to filter through 75 things that came from here, there, and everywhere that could be the case for you.
So in this case, what it's doing, in SpeedPak overall, essentially what you're doing is you're kind of offloading some sense of the geometry. So when you think about geometry in SOLIDWORKS, of course, there's the picture you can rotate and you can kind of zoom in and out, right? But one of the aspects of SOLIDWORKS that makes it actually useful for mechanical design automation is that you can measure things and you can remove degrees of freedom through mates, right? You can have mechanisms that move the way they're supposed to move in the real world. At a certain point, given the complexity of a given assembly, and that can mean size or the intricacy of the geometry, some of those things come with trade-offs, right? In terms of hardware and the ability of your hardware and your processor and all these things to actually be able to interpret those systems in their current and possibly soon to be altered states. So what SpeedPak does is it offloads a lot of this sort of like harder sort of mathematical geometry information, and it leaves almost like a picture, like a rotatable picture of many of your assembly components, while optionally, in this case, what you're saying is making a mated SpeedPak, which leaves certain elements of the assembly intact so that you can still measure, you can still have mates that dynamically update, while the rest of the components are able to kind of alter themselves graphically around it. So main idea here in terms of what it's doing for you and what Leo is telling you or advising you to do it for is because open time is being impacted by a given subassembly. So it's saying if you use a SpeedPak, you might be able to boost open times. And so it's giving you an idea of exactly what can help you optimize this assembly's performance. It's advising on those things. And then what it's also doing is offering to do them, right? So it's cutting out a lot of steps in terms of not only just clicking buttons in SOLIDWORKS, as I say in SolidSpot. That's not what it's doing. It's educate you on how SolidWorks works, what could help you with your assembly at this very moment. And then it's saying, hey, you don't have to like learn to fix and clicks. You have to open the interface. I'll just do it for you. All right. So it's cutting out like at least 3 or 4 steps for you in that sort of very reasonable sense.
Yeah, it is interesting that we rarely get a system that comes along that has kind of that dual benefit, right? Where it's notifying you. SpeedPak is a perfect example of a underutilized tool that's in the software, right? As far as I can tell, underutilized. So it's letting you know that that's even an option. I would imagine that a lot of people coming across this prompt would say, "Oh, I didn't even know that I could just convert my subassembly into graphics only and still be able to mate it in place." Now, you might say with SpeedPak, okay, well, we have large design review mode. How many people know about that one? Hopefully, all of you, certainly, because you're watching the show, you've heard us talk about it, and we're going to talk about it.
Soon more will.
Yeah, and you'll be, we'll encourage you to use it even more in just a few minutes. But SpeedPak is a great way to share things too, right? If you just want to send the graphic data of something to somebody and still have mateable faces, SpeedPak is your way to go. So if you had used your Leo, you would have learned about that as well.
Awesome. Underutilized tool.
Underutilized.
What people say about me.
I've never called you that.
Just waiting to get it in there. All right, Jesse, hit us with the next enhancement.
All right, so this one you've got split up across 2 pages. So you're making this
Just giving you the worst.
more difficult in every which way you can for me. So we're talking about some workflows here, right, for AI. In this case, dealing with threads. Now, I've been dealing with this for several weeks now, actually, in our preparation for what's new 2027. Yes, that's right. I'm already several releases ahead in our work, and we've been waist deep in that. So I've been actually dealing with this quite a bit. Solid spot for this one being viewers of the previous episode of SOLIDWORKS Delivery Day covering FD02 not that long ago will recall that new performance assistant pop-up set to appear when we insert hardware with physical threads to A, inform us of the potential performance drains therein, and B, in many cases, offer to suppress the threads. In the workflow you're seeing now, we're demonstrating a fork in the road moment with our AI Virtual Companion, following our prompt from earlier regarding potential assembly performance savers. This time we'll go down the road of suppressing threads of existing hardware within the assembly, which Leo is happily able to do wherever possible.
There you go. So once again, an example, as you said, of an actual workflow. So we're asking a very, very similar prompt in terms of how do I optimize the performance for this assembly right in that little chat box there. And one of the things that it's recognizing is that there's a high triangle count. And one of the common culprits that I'm sure many of you out there know of a high triangle count in areas where it doesn't seem possible to have a high triangle count, a high graphics triangle count is threads.
Yep.
Because you're looking at the assembly and you're like, oh, this part doesn't seem that geometrically complex. Like there's a lot of, kind of standard analytical geometry. But then you look and it's like, oh, the culprit, it's all these little threaded, bolts and all that. And I have a bunch of them. So there are a lot of triangles for the graphics card to have to handle.
I am definitely a fender in this area because I'm always rendering.
You're always rendering. Yeah. And they look awesome.
Yep, they look awesome. I build in as much detail as I possibly can, and then I pay for it on the back end when I'm trying to do anything in the model. So yeah, I'm very happy about this functionality for sure.
And I feel like a typical trade-off is to make like a configuration, right?
Yeah.
So if you have a rendering configuration where you want to have the threads available, so look, your renderings look sick and all that, that's great.
Yep.
And then you have
That's generally what I'll do. I'll do
Yeah.
simplified configuration. And by the way, with that, if you keep the same name, then you could open those configurations automatically on load. So you can open your simplified one. So if you're making simplified configs, name them the same, and then you can reuse them later.
That is a really good idea. That's a great
little tip for you there.
If you look at the demo here, you'll see that it is able to suppress a lot of the model threads much quicker than I could, you could, like any human could, but it isn't able to get all of them. So at this point, what it's able to do pretty well is it's able to get the sort of standard like cut sweep chamfered threads and suppress those in those parts. Some other types of threads that are created, like if it's like an imported body or if it's made like using the thread tool at this point, it's not going to get those as of today, but that could be changing in a week or a month.
Yeah, we said that about this functionality last show. So yeah, by next show, probably we'll be there.
Yep. So another example of a workflow that can help you out with quite a bit of things and a very common issue, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. These workflow things are kind of interesting. I was telling you, I bumped into an old friend of mine on the flight who ended up sitting next to me. So we were chit-chatting different industries, but he's in the legal space, and we were talking about AI and this and that.
Had you heard of Delivery Day?
He had not heard of Delivery Day, which I was disappointed to hear. But I've got him on there now, so that's good.
Our newest subscriber.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah. But he was talking about AI and how they use it in their space and whatnot, and he was saying, not necessarily that it saves him a bunch of time throughout the day, but they can just do things that weren't practical or possible before, just in terms of resources. And I feel like these are a great example of that, having a specific, they have specific AI tools for their industry, and these are kind of specific AI tools for our industry as well. So not so much that it replaced a lot of his day, but they were able to, track down things that they had thought to do in the past, but just the resources didn't make sense to spend in that area for the amount of savings that you would get, right? This is a good case with that too, right? It's like, well, maybe I'll just deal with a slow model because it would take me too long to go in and find all the hardware, press all of these things, and it's not worth the effort, right? Where in this case, if you can have the AI do it for you, and again, a targeted tool for a CAD system, it is worth it, right? I can come with a couple pecks and, clicks on my keyboard, I can have it go through and strip that data out. Now from there on, I've got a much more optimized model that I'm saving a bunch of time in the back end, but it is now practical or reasonable to do that. So I love stuff like that.
Yeah, another area like that is coding. So let's get to the next one, because this
Great.
one is all about coding.
Great segue.
Okay, so I got the solid spot here. Another example AI prompt workflow, this one for generative macro creation. Sounds important.
It does. It is important.
Okay, so the solid spot explanation before we really dig in. Your virtual companion can now make SOLIDWORKS automation accessible without requiring you to code from scratch. Describe the task you want to automate in natural language, and Leo will generate a VBA macro and open it directly in the editor for review and testing. You can run it immediately or continue refining it through conversation, making repetitive workflows faster and easier to automate. So this is one of the richest ways to use LLMs in general. But once again, in this case, with Leo, being able to actually have access to the given model in question, and also being able to iterate within SOLIDWORKS if the script is maybe doing something that you don't like, or you'd like to maybe add a layer onto the script. So if you're unfamiliar with macros are basically files. They're like, if you ever seen like a .bat, like a batch script file, but they're for certain softwares like SOLIDWORKS that support Visual Basic for applications. Basically, you can add them as buttons inside the interface for you and your users. You click them and they do an automation task. So in this case, what we're asking Leo to do is to make us a macro or a script that will export all the parts in the active assembly window as step files onto themselves. So it'll create that for you. And then once you have that macro file, you can take that, once again, add it as a button or send it to a colleague, send it to a coworker. You don't have to continue asking Leo to recreate the same exact macro over and over. This is really helpful in my mind for that initial task. So if you're thinking of something where it's like, I don't require a sophisticated level of reasoning for this, but I do need to do it over and over, maybe asking for a macro as opposed to keep prompting for the same thing over and over, maybe that approach is a little bit better.
Yeah, this is absolutely music to my ears, because there are absolutely cases where I'm doing the same thing over and over. We prep a lot of data sets and things like that, where you're doing repetitive tasks, and I am not a very good programmer. You are much better in this space than I am.
But like strip the custom properties.
Exactly.
Yeah, like stuff like that.
Stuff like that. Yep. Is a perfect case. But I don't have the programming skills to be able to do that myself. And the iteration is perfect because every time I try, it doesn't do what I want it to do, and I have to keep redoing it. So to have some assistance on this side in an area that I'm not super strong in is absolutely great. I can't wait to use this. I haven't used it myself yet, but I'm really looking forward to using this, because there have been times in the past where I know that there's a better way to do this. I just don't have the programming skills to be able to do it, even though it's relatively simple to make a macro and you can use some other methods to try to make them. I generally struggle with doing that. So either I've got to bug you or somebody else who has the skills. And again, it's similar to what I was just saying before. Like, is it worth my effort to try to stop and make this thing work so I can save some time, or should I just brute force, just do it myself and save myself time? Where in this case, okay, well, it will be worth it to stop and see if I can get something automated, because I have my companion to help me do it.
So that's it for AI level enhancements in this release. You can go to solidworks.com/delivery to see more enhancements related to AI. But we're going to be moving on to our next section, which a lot of you know and love, SOLIDWORKS design improvements. So you'll see with a lot of these enhancements, better performance, better control, less weighting. Those are some of the core ideas, I would say, behind the FD03 enhancements. And we'll be right back with Sophie from VATN to give us more of an industry flavor for those as well. All right, everyone, we are officially back here with VATN Systems. Sophie, what's going on?
Nice to meet you guys.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. So this is Sophie Beidel. Did I say it correctly?
Yeah, you did.
Well, I was telling you, people call me Scene all the time.
Yeah.
And like, it's okay. I just kind of think of it as like another iteration or variation of my name at this point.
Configuration even.
Configuration. Ooh, man, you're like better at this than we are.
Yeah, ready.
So part of this section of SOLIDWORKS Delivery Day is that we are, of course, covering the core SOLIDWORKS design enhancements, parts, assemblies, and drawings that have come out just this July with FD03. But we also, of course, we're here at VATN Systems, and we wanted to get some industry flavor for that variety of areas within SOLIDWORKS, right? And that's why Sophie's here. So, Sophie, firstly, tell us a little bit about what you do here.
Yeah, so I'm a mechanical engineer here, and I'm really lucky. We kind of see our products all the way through. So we start with design, and then we go into manufacturing, assembly, and then we get to test, which is a really wonderful way to, I mean, we get a lot of control, we get a lot of responsibility, and yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's really interesting to be here. And sometimes I get the sense, like when I talk to, and like Jesse, I'm sure you'll agree, just talking to different customers, that they might not like completely understand like how intricate, and I guess this is the case for all of our worlds, right? Like you don't understand how intricate it is, the stuff you're doing, if you're doing it every day.
Yeah,
And like when I heard about how like you guys do testing, I just thought it was like the neatest thing. It's a lot of
yeah,
companies can't, like, not that they don't do it, but they can't. Like they
yeah,
can't test same day. Like they might have to utilize like a testing lab
yeah,
or some other means to be able to test same day. But you guys were able to like design something, spin it out, print it, integrate it into the vessel, and then test
yeah,
down the water the same day.
yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
It's incredible. We move incredibly quickly here.
Yeah.
And it's really amazing to see. And I think it makes our iteration process better to get that immediate feedback.
Yeah, which you guys are all going to see. So
Yeah.
stay tuned. Stay tuned to the end of the episode. But once again, some core design enhancements. So I want to start off with this one before we get into some questions about how you all do things here at VATN. And Sophie, you mentioned this is something that you actually are interested in. So let me read the solid spot first, just so you guys can get like an overarching understanding of what this enhancement is. And then we'll kind of chit chat a little bit. But this one is called Pattern Assist for Hardware Stack. So SolidSpot is pattern assist for hardware stacks. Helps you create complete fastener stacks without manually copying components or adding extra mates. SolidWorks Design now recognizes related hardware, such as bolts, washers, and nuts, and suggests a pattern-driven approach that keeps the assembly cleaner and easier to manage. It's a faster, more intelligent way to build repeated hardware while following better assembly practices. I'm guessing this part looks familiar.
This is a part of mine that I designed. So
Okay, so
yes.
this is actually yours.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, cool. So what does this part like functionally do?
So this part, it's a G10 plate and it mounts all of our electronics in our core vehicle.
Very cool. So the hardware stack enhancement, or this enhancement where you see like there's like a pattern assistant and it's suggesting a pattern driven approach and
Yeah.
human patterning. Like I did the original demo for this, and I think this came out in an earlier FD of 2026. But before, what happened was it would pattern the exact like bolt or washer or whatever it is that you're looking to pattern, but it wouldn't take along the entire stack.
Yeah.
It would just take, you could edit it and then add it. But
Right.
what it's doing now is it's actually recognizing, hey, this is a hardware stack. You might have a washer, you might have a nut or whatever. It's going to take all of them and put them in each like patterned area, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is new as of FD03. If you install FD03, you have this. It'll recognize it for you. Even if you have no idea what pattern-driven components are in assemblies,
Yeah.
that's kind of what this is for. It's saying like, hey, you might be doing copy with mates right now, or you might be doing this very manually, but instead this might be smarter to do based on the kind of surrounding geometry that I can see. But Sophie, like a lot of people watching this program, Delivery Day, they have various different roles, right? Like some of them are designers, just like you guys, right? It's like some of you designers, some of you engineers. Some people are doing more like CAD or like PDM admin style work. So one of the things I wanted to ask you is like across the different product lines you guys have, which you do for different industries, right? How do you make sure that designers are actually using preferred components? Like we're using Toolbox here, but like particular types of fasteners.
Yeah.
And also like kind of pertinent to this enhancement, the preferred assembly methods across the different lines.
Well, so, you know, what's interesting is I think going from the phase of startup we're in right now is going from startup to more of a full company. And one of the things we're doing right now is building up processes. So kind of where we're at now is every engineer has their own workflow, but we're really trying to build to a system where everybody's using the same process. So right now, every person does it their own way. We have no way to guarantee that each person is, we trust every engineer to know what fasteners they need. Even when most of them are repeated, we're using the same material, we're using the same fasteners. A lot of the components are shared between assemblies. It would be really useful as we build up to like streamline our workflow. So we know we're getting it right every time. And even just, I mean, I put together this part and I did have to do this by hand. If I could have just pattern recognized this whole thing, it would have saved me probably hours. And the knowledge that I wasn't screwing anything up, that, you know, that I knew everything would be correct. I didn't have to double check, make sure I didn't like have a different kind of nut somewhere or a different material screw. That can just, those kinds of errors can can snowball into bigger issues.
Totally. Like, this is such an interesting case specifically because it's like, you can have SOPs for this, that, and the other thing, but this is like a micro SOP. It's kind of saying, I just did this. I was telling Sean that we prep data sets and I was just working on some hardware. I just did exactly this and it was just me and I messed it up. And I realized I went back through it and I was like, oh man, I forgot I missed some of the washers that I had on something. And I had to go back and delete them out and redo them again. It's like, okay, I wasn't even collaborating with anybody else. It's just me doing it and I still messed it up. So yeah, I'm excited about little things like this that are just so easy to miss when you're going through things. And even if there is a procedure for it, it's like you just were not paying attention at the moment that you happened to do it, or somebody walked in or walked by your desk or something and you got distracted. So things like that I think are cool.
You know, we have a motto here at VATN, which is slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And this is one of those tools that is going to make slower faster in that way, to make that initial process more accurate, easier to do, and then that increases the end speed of the company.
Like, slow is smooth, I probably would be like, okay, I get that. But then like smooth is fast, I think, is the part where I don't know a lot of people would think that way. But
Well,
I think it's I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, I think in the example of this feature and this part, you know, if I had done this too quickly and I wasn't paying attention, I got distracted.
You might think you're going fast, but
you think you're going fast. You think you're going like as quick as possible, but then you mess up a couple nuts, and then you know what, that you're gonna have to go back. You're gonna have to redo that work. It's gonna create issues down the line. It's gonna snowball, and then that process, the way that's gonna snag down the line, that actually is gonna create way more of a time sink than just doing it slowly and smoothly the first time. And then that leads to the quickness of not having to go back, redo work.
All right, guys, let's move on to the next one. So this next enhancement we're going to uncover for FD03 is edit parts in context within large design review. The new ability to edit parts in the context of an assembly makes large design review even more useful for your bigger assemblies. Instead of opening a component in a separate window and losing sight of the surrounding design, you can now edit the part directly within the super light assembly confines of LDR mode. That means faster changes, better visual awareness, and fewer steps between identifying a potential problem and fixing it. It's interesting, like there's so many ways, I don't know if you feel like this, Sophie, but like us, especially like doing all of these enhancements, like making it little demos for assemblies specifically, there's just so many ways to open them and so many options that sometimes I feel like it can like get a little chaotic in a way of like knowing which is best for which situation. Like, have you guys ever tried to use large design review here, or is it something that like you guys haven't had a need for really?
I think we definitely have. We have super complex assemblies, and having this top level view is really useful. Also including like lightweighting parts, having things not crash. I mean, everybody knows in SolidWorks, it's like the most devastating thing. You've been making changes and you don't save and you lose something because you just have overwhelmed your computer.
Yeah, with any software that's like pretty complex, I just think save often.
Yo, for sure.
And we have an enhancement later in the episode that you'll definitely want to see because it helps you a lot in that area. But I totally see what you're saying.
Especially when you're right on the edge of your RAM. Okay, that peaking, like when
the fan starts kicking on a little hot, a little bit too long, and it's like, oh no. But when you think about making a change to a given part, like a part that might appear inside of multiple assemblies, right? How often are you finding that these sort of contextually based changes that you're having to like double check on clearances or double check on like potential interferences or just surrounding geometry elsewhere in the assembly? Like, how do you keep control of that?
So I would say that happens all the time. I mean, being in the underwater world, we're working in pretty small volumes with fixed boundaries, which means we're having to like maximize the space all the time with every design we do. And that means like really small changes of the, degree of like a 0.5 millimeter, a couple millimeters here, a couple millimeters there. And that means I personally, and I know my team has spent a lot of time bouncing between part files and assemblies and then seeing if there's interference, seeing how things fit. And to be able to do that in context would save a lot of time. And I think, again, minimize mistakes. I think it's going to be incredibly useful to us.
And then I guess like in terms of accounting for interferences, like are you doing like interference detection in SOLIDWORKS? Are you just doing like measurements in between components or kind of looking for overlap there?
I think every engineer does it differently based on their preferred workflow, but we use all of those tools.
Cool. Yeah, it's interesting because we call this mode large design review, which initially when it came out, the mode itself and the modes changed a lot, especially over the past like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
It used to be like really just for large designs.
Yeah.
Like very large designs. And now like some of the capabilities that it's allowing you to do, like edit parts in context while keeping the rest of the assembly in scope.
Yeah.
It's making it so that even if it's not really a large design, it's probably still useful.
Oh, for sure.
To be able to do.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, internally we've been talking about like, should we be changing the name of large design review?
Yeah.
It's just design review.
Yeah, somehow. Yeah, maybe it's just design review. Maybe
it's not even for review anymore. I mean,
I know.
So you get firmly as of FD03, it's no longer just for review. I mean, I think of it as lightweight mode. Honestly, I use it so frequently. I use it basically as lightweight mode, and lightweight mode itself is great, but it's like lightweight mode plus. Yeah, I use it all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, this just really takes it up a notch.
So we're going to stay on assemblies with another, this is more of an evaluation tool within assemblies called assembly visualization. And there's a new enhancement to that for appearance counts. So I'll read off the solid spot for that. The newfound ability to display appearance count in assembly visualization helps you quickly identify components where appearances have been applied to large numbers of faces or other entities. Because those detailed appearance assignments can slow down assembly performance, you can now spot the biggest offenders visually and clean them up more easily. It's a simple way to turn performance guidance into something you can immediately see and act on. So assembly visualization, like this ability to kind of like color code that we're seeing here, isn't really new, but we have been adding a lot of different styles of characteristics. Like you can filter by whether something's locked. You can filter by graphics triangles. Like if you're trying to see like, okay, the assembly's moving slower than it should be, I think, based on my estimation. Like, is there something that I'm not seeing here? Like we always talk about like hardware with tons of threads. Yeah,
that's what I was gonna say.
Which we reviewed earlier in the episode. Some tools to help with that. But I wanted to ask you if whether it exists or not. But like if you would imagine a characteristic that you could color code or like tabularly sort of filter by, like what are some characteristics of your components that you might like to filter by and store by?
I think grouping things by characteristics or I think the threads is really useful.
Yeah.
I also think, grouping things by like the subsystems. So your electrical system, your mechanical system, hardware, which is the way we organize our part trees anyways, to be able to do that and visualize it and select it and say, okay, these are where my electronics, these are where all my components are. This is how I can see it. This is where all my fasteners appear. I think that would be really useful.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So like if it's hardware, it's a certain color.
Yeah.
Maybe quantity count.
Yeah.
Maybe some other characteristics. If it's electrical type component, different color, different quantity count.
I could also see this being useful switching between different versions and configurations of vehicles, seeing what components are common, which ones have been revised, which ones have disappeared, and which ones are completely new. So categorizing things that way, I think would be really useful.
Wow. That's cool. Yeah, that would be neat. Our list is getting long in terms of properties, but like I feel like that is like overdue.
Yeah, it would be really cool.
Like, that would be helpful for like a lot of different people, actually.
I think the visualization in general is underutilized. Partly maybe because of that reason. Like I find even myself, I go in there, I'm like, oh, there's too many options. I don't know what to filter by. Though I will say for myself, I do really love this new edition. because I sometimes play the role of the rendering guy. So I'm often sorting out the appearances, and appearances are something that people apply all kinds of different ways.
Yeah, sure.
So usually I'm going in and working with data from somebody else. So this is a great way for me to look through there and see what's going on. If there are some problematic ones, like all sorts of face appearances that I can deal with.
Yeah.
I'm digging this option.
Yeah.
So this next one is something that's been requested in a variety of forms for years, and these are some of the most common offenders. So that's like my YouTube short style. Like, you're not going to miss this explanation, or at least the beginning of the explanation. So it's titled Interrupt, Delete Face, and Knit Surface. So I'll read the general explanation in the solid spot here. You can now interrupt time-consuming operations like delete face and knit surface operations by pressing the escape key. Whether a command is taking longer than expected or was started accidentally, you no longer have to wait for it to finish before regaining control. It's a small enhancement that makes complex modeling sessions feel much more responsive. We were talking earlier about like saving and saving often. Like, this is one of those areas where you feel like you ever been on like a trip and you take a road, or you like get on a highway or something at a certain, and you're like, I don't know when the next exit is on this highway. I know I've gone the wrong way. I don't want to be here and I can't get off the road. Like, that's how I think of certain areas where, like, if you have like a messy imported part and like faces are missing, or it's just like really janky and you're trying to fix it. And then you're like, maybe SOLIDWORKS will just kind of know. I'll do like delete face and like patch, and then you press check and it's like, I'm really trying. And it's like, I don't want to do this anymore. Just get out of here. And it's like, so I have to end the session. It's like terrible. But for at least for delete face and knit surface, which are two of the most common offenders in that regard, of just getting into a command and not being able to leave, you can, as of FD03, you can now press escape, and it just asks you like, all right, do you want to just be done? You want to get off of this exit? I'll make an exit right here. Like, just go like hard right here.
Yeah.
You can now do that. So is this do you guys work with a lot of imported geometry today?
Yeah, we do. We will take in various things, customer files, lots of step files, things we download off the internet for COTS parts. And I've definitely gone back and forth. Sometimes, I'll be working with customers. I'll send them a part. I'll send them a step file to preserve our geometry, and they'll send back changes. And then, trying to apply those changes to the original part can just be a really time-consuming process. I mean, like, trying to find efficient ways to do it can be kind of frustrating, and then you end up doing some of these things which can be really useful tools that can also take a long time. And again, if you get on that and it's like you're like, oh no, even something like fix the fillets or fillet expert, when it like starts getting in there, that has happened to me a couple times. And trying to escape that, I would just to be able to escape out of that would be really nice. So yeah, it's pretty common for us, and these kinds of tools are going to be really useful and save us time and stress.
Delete face is a good example of what you're talking about earlier. We're like going slow, because this is the one that I usually get caught on. How you have those little radio buttons at the bottom where you can do whichever.
Yeah,
I'll go to just delete a bunch of faces and be going too fast, like I always do, and have it on. Just as the demo shows, have it on fill instead of delete. And then it's like, I just wanted to remove them. I didn't want you to try to like figure out how to, obviously there's no way to map all of these faces together on tangent surface. Stop thinking about it. But up until now, could not have done it.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Like, I usually think of these tools, and I feel like they are frequently used, like in terms of imported geometry or just non-native geometry. I think they're often used, like delete face, knit surface. Although knit surface could be used for like surfacing commands just kind of originally. But I know, like, sometimes like I'll talk to customers and like even just like moving faces as a way to just make a quick change. Those sorts of things. So I guess this would come in handy there as well. Like, if you're just looking to make a quick change with something, like replace the surface and it's just not working, even if it's not like maybe it's just a SOLIDWORKS file you to model, and you're like, I don't know how this was modeled. I'm not going to go change or find how it's modeled. I'm just going to delete the face and change it. There's a lot of cases where this like would just naturally come up.
Sometimes I'll use it. You mentioned configurations earlier. I'll use it in terms of configurations too, because sometimes you'll have like, I find a lot of cases with like text or things that you would want in the model, but you would want to be able to turn off easily. Now, in terms of rebuild time, they'll still end up in the tree, but you can use a delete and patch or something like that to just remove them all at once, and then be able to suppress and unsuppress that one feature and kind of get them all at once. Maybe not the best in terms of performance, but it is a convenient way to do it sometimes. So
Cool. All right, let's move on to drawings. So this one's actually a big one. This is definitely a big one for this release. Update drawings in background, which I think you're probably already interested.
Yeah.
All right, so the solid spot. Do you use drawings? If so, I have good news. The ability to update drawings in the background helps keep documentation current without interrupting your design work. After making model changes, you can update associated drawings in the background instead of opening each one individually. That means less repetitive work and more time spent moving the design forward. So Sophie, like, do you guys have processes in place for like when you make a change to a design that already has a given drawing?
Yeah.
Do you guys have processes in place to kind of make sure that those are like actively in sync?
Yeah, I mean, the way we do it, or at least the way I do it, is I always have the part file and the drawing open at the same time.
Concurrently, just kind of.
Yeah. And that there is some automatically updating, thing that happens there. But to not have to do that anymore, especially if you have a lot of parts open, you can only have so many files open before a crack
It starts to
happens.
get crazy.
And so being able to just have that happen in the background is going to be incredibly useful. Just in our workflow, again, making everything smoother.
Yeah, this is one, it's really easy to show. Like you guys are seeing it right now in the episode.
Yeah.
You just click update drawings and it goes in and does it. You can do it, as we're saying here, with multiple components at once.
Yeah.
And it kind of just like gives you like a little task pane. So drawing task in the task pane, and it just shows you like basically the job it's doing and if it's done. But yeah, it was a question of like we gave this presentation to like employees and the partners as well. And they were like, is that it? Like, that's all you do? Like, is there some other thing to do here? And it was like, no, this is how it works. That's it. And sometimes that's how these things go. It's like the simplest to demonstrate enhancements sometimes are the ones that are the best.
The most useful.
Yeah, they're the most useful and also the most memorable.
Sure.
And the stickiest, because it's like, all right, well, if all I have to remember to do is press the button.
Click once.
Click once, click it,
Yeah.
and that's it. That's all you do. It's not some crazy elaborate process to.
Oh, I see myself using this all the time.
Yeah.
Particularly available if you're using, like in this case, we've got some in-context things going on too, right? You make one change. Okay, well, that actually affects multiple components.
Yeah.
So you've got to either know that or have been paying attention enough to know that, okay, I got to go check these drawings. So having that do it essentially for you is pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So we're going to stay on drawings with improved family tables. All right. So the solid spot here is family tables make it easier to present configuration-driven designs clearly and consistently. In 2026 FD03, they've been improved. Link dimensions that vary between configurations can now appear under a single automatically generated name, which can also carry directly into the drawing table. Derived configurations and representations are easier to include as well, helping you build more complete family tables with fewer manual steps. So family tables, it wasn't like people were just saying like, I want family tables. Like that wasn't like a thing, but people were requesting that you be able to have a table that shows like a number of different configurations and maybe like a couple characteristics. Like here we have some basic ones like length and thickness, just distinguishing characteristics that move across the different versions of a very, very similar product. So what we changed though, and that came out mid-release in 2025.
Yeah.
So I think it was like 2025 FD02. So it wasn't in like that first, hey, 2025 is out, download it now. It's kind of like in the middle. So what this does is like if you have a table, you can have it set in your document properties, like in your template for your drawing. What it will do is if you have like a dimension that is being described in the table, that's being called out in the drawing, if you rename the column header, it actually renames the call out on the drawing.
Yeah.
So that you just refer back to the table to know the different lengths or thicknesses or whatever that dimension is actually driving in the model. I think through to today, as far as like our YouTube shorts go, like the initial YouTube short that we made describing family tables is still the most engaged one.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, so, and I've added so many people personally to this enhancement request of just like different customers asking like, hey, can I show like a configuration table in a drawing? And it's like, no, you can't.
Yeah.
Like over the years, no, you can't. But I'll tell SolidWorks that, tell R&D that you'd like to do that. So this is a big one. But how do you guys do that here at VATN? Like it's a very basic but like fundamental question of like when you have products or designs that are like similar enough, but maybe they're longer, maybe that, it's thicker in an area, or maybe it has like an extra part added to it.
Yeah.
Like, do you guys use configurations for that ever? And, if you do, like, how do you decide whether something's like an entirely new product with like entirely new part number
Yeah.
versus like just a configuration in a given file?
Yeah. I think what would be more helpful even is to kind of go through some of the things that I've used configurations for.
Yeah, sure.
So one that I see in my own workflow is we use a lot of different connectors, bulkhead connectors, and those generally have the same external geometry and then just have a different number of pins. And so the parts, especially for manufacturing jigs, were very similar because again, that external geometry is the same, and it'll only be just a couple of points in the part that'll be different. And to keep all of those together and just have a 3-pin version, 6-pin version, 8-pin version for what is essentially the same jig is very useful to have. And to have something like that in drawings, again, I mean, basically the part is the same. All of the dimensions are going to be the same except for a couple, just those pin differences. So this could be really useful for that.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's like that's a great use case. Because if part of the purpose of the drawing or having a drawing is just like to call out those differences.
Yeah.
Those differences are probably captured in some sort of parameter, right? Like,
Yeah.
or
For
like
sure.
instance count, or
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
patterning it or whatever it is. And you can have those in the table, which makes sense.
And I will say, even for this particular feature, being able to have something that's useful in an engineering sense, technically, that's in your actual part versus when and that's, I think, more internal for engineers when you're actually looking at part files. But then when you're going externally, drawings are often used to communicate information.
Sure. Yeah.
Being able to change that for something that's really technical versus something that's easier to understand right away, length, thickness, to be able to change that, I think is going to be really useful. And, ultimately drawings are about communication.
Yeah,
So.
I was going to say exactly the same thing, especially, these days with print literacy, maybe a hot take, declining.
Sure. Right.
I think it is, like you said, the purpose of a drawing is to communicate. So
Yeah.
if we're being cryptic about things, seemingly intentionally sometimes, like there's no point in doing that, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to communicate as efficiently as possible. This is a good way to build in those small things that just reduce any kind of miscommunications.
Yeah.
All right, so this next one, this is one that Jesse created, and Jesse mentioned you're often on our team doing a lot of the renderings and the new demos for rendering. So I'm going to read this off for you here, and
Thank you.
Give you some
Do it justice.
Give you some shine. Okay, so and this is I teased earlier in the episode. This is one of the biggest enhancements in years for our rendering tool, SOLIDWORKS Visualize. So I'm excited to unveil this for the world here. All right, so this one is titled UV Editor. SolidSpot is. The new UV editor in SOLIDWORKS Visualize gives you more control when applying textures to complex geometry. You can fine-tune scene placement and reduce unwanted stretching, helping textures wrap more naturally around shapes that go beyond simple geometric forms. The result is more accurate, realistic-looking appearances. So this was like always this has always been a challenge for shapes that are like not super analytical. To be able to like get that like stretching to work over like a kind of like a mesh, like this has long been an issue, right, Jesse?
Yeah. This is a case where so basically when you're texturing things, the most common way is to project your textures down from a box.
Sure.
Basically, if your shape is not a box, that's going to mean you're going to end up with seams and weird little textures, all that mismatch all over the place. And up until this point, we've not had a way to really fix that. Not to mention, it's very difficult to fix with CAD geometry. So you're looking at the tessellated result there. Tessellated geometry is really difficult to manually work with. So a lot of times that means just remodeling things and by other means to try to get the textures correct. I am absolutely thrilled with this new system. It works really well for my testing so far, and I'm really excited about it. It's essentially a whole new piece of software within the software, so we can't really get into it and show too much of it within a 30-second clip here or even a small segment. But yeah, I'm absolutely thrilled with this enhancement.
Yeah, it's interesting. I thought about this in the scope of what you all do here at VATN. what might people not be seeing when it comes to visuals that is important with your products?
Yeah.
Whether that's at like a functional level,
Sure.
or whether that's at an aesthetics level, like how do visuals play a part in your products here at VATN?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way I'm gonna go with this is really the BD side, which is, business development.
Yeah.
I think appearances and visuals are a really important way to communicate to people outside of our company.
Mm-hmm.
And the BD team does amazing visuals. You can see on our website, I think a huge part of why our website looks really clean and communicates really clearly is because the visuals we take really seriously. And our BD team is amazing. They go and do these presentations that are so visually beautiful. And I think that really sells our product. You can see the technical information, but they say like a picture is worth 1,000 words. Like 3D rendering like that. I mean, it really you were talking about it earlier. You walk past people's computers and you see these incredible 3D designs, and they're striking. And this only enhances that. It almost takes away to like not be able to do these kinds of patterns. It almost defeats the purpose of being able to do those beautiful models in the first place. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. And especially with, with AI and all of these other things that come out in just media in general,
Sure.
people are so used to seeing things that look realistic.
Yeah.
We were talking a minute ago about using your drawings to communicate. This is just another form of communication, right? And if you can't get something that looks representative,
Yeah.
I really find that it takes people out. Like,
Sure.
people say something as silly, oh, the little seam, nobody's going to notice it. But it takes you out of the imagination of this thing being real, right? And especially critical if it's a product that isn't real yet, to be able to represent something that somebody doesn't have to use their imagination so much to say, wow, what might this look like, right? And that mental jump is bigger than a lot of people give credit for, I think. So the more that you can do to represent it as it's going to be or as it is, it really goes a long way.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Awesome. Well, cool. That as far as the core SOLIDWORKS design enhancements go, those are some of the big ones. Once again, you can go to solidworks.com/delivery to see more of the core SOLIDWORKS design enhancements. We're going to be heading over to multi-user workflows in just about. We're actually going to head over to your area pretty soon as well to get more of an idea into VATN's design practices, testing. Of course, we're going to head out in the boat later this episode. Stay tuned for that.
It's going to be a real treat.
Yes, I'm very, very excited. I definitely accepted the calendar invitation. I'm not tentative. I'm going to accept it. I'm going, confirmed. So stay tuned for multi-user workflow enhancements in just a bit. Welcome back. Jesse, we're at the end of the tour as far as the new enhancements go.
We are.
Right?
Almost at the end of the tour.
Yes, almost at the end of the tour. So next, after this multi-user enhancements section, which is humongous in terms of impactful enhancements for the typical SOLIDWORKS user. Even if you aren't using 3D Experience, these are some real niceties that you will be uncovering during this one. But right after this, we're going to give you a special look at VATN Systems exact, built-in SOLIDWORKS, print it, integrate it into the vessel, test it out in the water workflow same day. We're going to take you on the boat. It's going to be awesome. So stay tuned. Stay tuned till the end of the episode, which begins kind of right after this segment here. But multi-user enhancements, this is like we mentioned at the very top of the episode, this is like a year's worth of enhancements in one release here in July of 2026.
Yeah, it should be restated. We've cut out a bunch of stuff to try.
Yeah, we've cut it. We have
to try to fit this show in. So there is more. Definitely check it out.
Yeah, check it out. solidworks.com/delivery. But without further ado, let's get started. So linkages between SOLIDWORKS design work and some of the more collaborative features is unlike any other in this release. And we're going to start off with what we're calling autosave for 3D Experience. That's how we're labeling this enhancement that you're about to see here. Let's give the overarching solid spot explanation before we get started. Okay, so the new ability to autosave from SOLIDWORKS Design to the 3D Experience platform makes saving to the platform feel more seamless. Each time you save locally, SOLIDWORKS Design automatically syncs the file in the background, so you can keep working without interruption. Saves are captured as an iteration, making it easier to retrieve an earlier version when needed. So this is actually the teaser for the episode. So hopefully if that hooked you in, making true on that promise here. But, saving, we mentioned during the conversation with Sophie, saving is so important, right? Especially when you're working in SOLIDWORKS, you have like 20 files open, 30 files open, whatever it is. I usually don't go that high, but maybe I've seen people who do.
Yeah.
That's fine. Saving is important because you're trying to back up your data, right? You're trying to back up where you are progress-wise. But what this does is if you're using, let's say cloud services for SOLIDWORKS, which many of you have, like if you bought SOLIDWORKS since like July of 2023, you just inherently have it, you have to activate it.
Right.
Or you could upgrade for a very sort of short nominal fee compared to the benefits you get. You can use this. And so each time you're saving, you can turn it on in the options to where it's also backing up a copy of your most recent save to the cloud, right? Which is pretty awesome, right? So you're not really so much worrying about, hey, something happens here, like is it going to be backed up or other people going to have access to this iteration? No, they will. And you don't have to make like a new revision, new full revision or anything like that. It just kind of keeps it there. And it also gives you a comment in the iteration stack telling you how it was backed up, how it was saved, when it was given over to your cloud storage, so that you can know what you're retrieving.
Yeah, because that's the downside really, right, of saving often. I find I do save often to try to make sure that I'm not losing any work. But if you are mid-thought while you're working on a design and you're saving often, I have gotten to the point where I've changed my mind at some point with what I'm doing, right? And if you're saving that same part over and over again, you now have to undo the work that you decided against, right, as you've been saving. So iterations is such a key part of this autosave. I think the autosave is great, but the iteration, that the fact that it saves iterations as you go is even better. I think that's the part that really interests me with this feature.
We also, like, we title this multi-user enhancements, this section. Like, honestly, you don't need to be using, you don't need to be using SOLIDWORKS design with multiple users for this to take effect.
Not at all.
Right? Like, this is literally a backup system for you. Like, and having it work automatically, and you can kind of see it in the demo here in the task pane, it's giving you an idea of the progress, is pretty great. So once again, if you have bought SOLIDWORKS at all recently, you're on subscription, you likely have cloud services already, you might be using it, which is great. If you're not, you might just need to activate it. But this is a fantastic new feature that just dropped again this July here in 2026.
Yeah, and again, this is sort of in line with a lot of other tools that you may use as well, right? Talking about AI being a little bit more similar to maybe some of the other AI tools. There's a lot of tools that autosave nowadays, so a lot of people are used to that functionality, and super excited that we've got it built in here as well.
Awesome. I think this next one's going to be welcomed as well. So I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So solid spot for this, I guess we've got download drawings, which by that I mean new in SOLIDWORKS Design 2026 FD03, you can have 3D Experience automatically download drawings when you pull down the parts and assemblies. This helps ensure that the documentation you need is available alongside the design. When opening a component in SOLIDWORKS Design, you can automatically download the drawings associated with the physical product, reducing manual steps to give you a more complete product context for design review and life cycle work. Now, physical product, just to be clear on that might not be terminology that you'd be familiar with. That's essentially your geometry. That's the name of the file that goes onto the 3D Experience platform as you're saving your geometry, right? So that would be your part file, or if your configurations of your part files, that's the actual geometry. So when you're downloading that, pulling that, your parts and assemblies down from the 3D Experience platform, you have the ability to just pull all the related context with it, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. This is a welcome enhancement for a number of reasons. When you pull down from the cloud to your kind of local C drive or local cache area files that you wish to look at or work on, make changes to, a lot of times you're kind of just going according to your own present intent, right? Like if I want to open and edit an assembly, I'm going to go to the assembly, I'm going to open it, I'm going to check it out or lock it, right? For changing, right? So I can go and do that. But a lot of times, eventually, and Sophie mentioned it just a moment ago, like it's just because you might in parallel want to have the drawing open, or you might want to press update drawings and have the drawing update, the new feature we have in FD03. But to do that, the drawing has to be accessible to sort of dynamically update it, right? So if you want to do that kind of thing, you need the drawing available in your cache. You need to have it pulled down from the cloud. And what this option allows you to do, and once again, it's set up as an option. You can turn it on or not if you want to. You can turn it on for yourself, all of your users, if you're more of an admin type role, You can do that as well. As you can say, okay, when I take down a part or take down the drawing that has, or take down an assembly rather, that has a drawing attached to it or related to it, take down the drawing as well. Because eventually I'm going to want to open it. I want to have, SolidWorks have it updated. So just pull it down by default. So it's just there and I don't have to do it in an extra step. And you can have it do it for, if it's an assembly, just the assembly, but you can also have an extension of that to where it's also reading the related parts within the assembly or related sub-assemblies within that overall product structure. And it's taking the drawings that may be attached to those parts and those are sub-assemblies so that you can have them available in the cache and be able to open them whenever. But it can be a real time saver.
Yeah, I mean, so much of this particular release is just having the context at hand, right? You've got large design review where you can be editing things while you have the context open in super, super lightweight mode. You've got your drawings automatically updating and already have them downloaded and available. So we've got a lot of links to the same methodology in the background.
100%. Yeah, that was one of my key themes.
Yeah,
just less waiting.
Yep,
less waiting and more control. So that's definitely evident there. But yeah, let's get to the next one here. This has a big play. If you're thinking about using cloud services for SolidWorks, I think this will be very welcome to you. So the enhancement is browse reference files and how you're able to do that. SolidSpot it's now easier than ever to resolve missing assembly references using content from the 3D Experience platform. You can quickly find and replace missing files, reducing manual search effort and improving the reliability of assembly open workflows. It also helps preserve the correct product structure across local and platform-based design work. This is like a common enough fear, especially in implementation context. And what I mean by that is like if you're implementing 3D Experience for the first time, and you probably, if you're at, a company of any maturity, you probably have existing assemblies, existing drawings. And like the magic of SolidWorks, like we talked about with Sophie a moment ago, is that there are these kind of built-in references between the files, right? That's how SolidWorks works in a lot of ways. And so sometimes though, when you might think like, oh, I'm just going to port all of my assemblies, all of my drawings, all these references right into the system. It's all going to be fine. It can be fine. It'll work much more efficiently. But sometimes what happens is like we've all opened assemblies in SolidWorks over time where it's like, oh, it can't find a part file because somebody just like deleted it, moved it to the recycle bin, renamed it in an improper way. And it's like, it just can't find the reference. Well, unless you're checking for those things, that can happen, even if you throw it into the platform, right, into the cloud, it's still, if it doesn't have the reference, it doesn't have the reference. So what are my options after that happens, right? If I move it to the 3D Experience, well,
into the ether.
Yeah, into the ether, right? Well, what you have the ability to do now is very easily, like we know as SolidWorks design users, you can find references after the fact or point it to the right reference, right? Well, what you can do now is you can also find those references very easily from within that familiar dialog, searching through 3D Experience as well. So you can do either or. So if that does happen, you can find a missing reference from your C drive, find it from the server, or find it from the cloud server. It's very easy to do both kind of within that familiar interface, which makes it, I think, a lot more, I guess, stress-free to go into an environment or a choice like that.
Yeah, and the platform it's an object-based system, right? So you would not necessarily need to organize things in the same way that you would on a C drive or on your server or something like that, right? You could and maybe should put everything right into one location. So in this case, finding references, that's even easier. But if you're manually looking around for some specific part or something like that, it can be harder to find. Obviously, we have great searching tools and things like that. But this is just great peace of mind, right? Wherever that file went, you're going to be able to find it and put it back rather than having to undo or redo work that you've already done. Either direction, as you mentioned, you're covered. It's just beautiful.
Cool. So we talked about managing CAD. Let's talk about managing projects, managing work. This next one, Jesse.
Yeah, right. So great segue there, Sean. Streamlined task integration is our next one up, and our solid spot for that is as of FD03, streamlined task integration makes it easier to collaborate on shared SolidWorks projects with both internal teams and external partners. From within SolidWorks Design, you can share data, manage access, and coordinate work through the 3D Experience platform. That means fewer handoff barriers and a smoother way to keep everyone working from the same project context. We were just talking with Sophie about how important communication is on multiple levels, right? With drawings maybe internally as well as externally, and with your graphics communicating your intent of your design. Tasks and all that is associated with this is a great way to make sure that everybody's on the same page, and significantly easier to use as of FD03, huh?
Yeah, and there might be a lot of new aspects of this to a lot of people watching.
Yeah, good point.
So one of the major areas that I think this covers in terms of the themes of some of these enhancements is like that better linkage between SOLIDWORKS Design, the program that we all have used for years, right? And the platform and what it can do. And we know 3D experience, it can help you manage tasks. And you can kind of, like you said, it's an object-based system.
Yep.
You can tie a certain CAD object to a certain task, so you know exactly which part is to be edited or changed or altered, like that sort of thing. But there is, like, in the command manager, in that ribbon area of SOLIDWORKS, like, you can turn on a lifestyle and collaboration tab that has all these common operations. And this sort of streamlined task integration is relating to the ability to not only create tasks, objects in the system to where you can attach the part or assembly or whatever project, establish whether it's, due or past due, what's the due date, that kind of thing, what's the deliverable. But you can also, you can do it right within that lifestyle collaboration interface. And you can also work with external parties. So it isn't just people, directly within your company, users directly within your company. If it is like a supplier or a vendor that has a task within a given overarching project, you can have them as an assignee. They get a notification, they're added to the space. They can even add files to the space in that specific area with a limited permission set. So we're really expanding what you can do in that area.
Yeah, and obviously this functionality has been there, but the integration into your workday
That's the thing. It's the integration's like a lot.
Is what's new. And I think, this is an underutilized set of tools, I think, to begin with. But this sort of says, no excuse now. Like, this is so convenient to be in SOLIDWORKS and be setting up those things that you can say, this is what I need you to do. This is the file that I need you to do it on. And zip, off it goes to whoever needs to do that. And you've never even left your workspace is really cool. I think this, to me, makes that functionality really usable to a 2x degree at this point.
Awesome. Once again, just like all the other categories that we've gone through today, you can go to solidworks.com/delivery to see many more enhancements. I mentioned this is a truckload of a release for multi-use workflows. You'll see many more there that are likely relevant to you and what you do today. But for now, we are going to take a look at more of what VATN Systems does. Again, the exciting kind of build, print, test, go out on the boat workflows. So we'll be right back.
Put on your rubber boots.
Yeah, rubber boots, sunscreen, we're ready. Hey everyone, Sean O'Neill here. Thanks for making it this far into this special edition episode of SOLIDWORKS Delivery Day. So, like we teased earlier, I'm going to give you some insights into a pretty game-changing capability VATN Systems has at their disposal, which is to design, print, integrate, and test new parts and capabilities all during the same exact business day. Okay, so we alluded to this earlier during the episode, and it's true. Designing for underwater applications and saltwater applications at that is no joke. It's something humans have struggled to do effectively for years. You potentially have multiple atmospheres worth of underwater pressure to deal with when it comes to any submersible. You're dealing with communication barriers, concerns over corrosion, and inherent visibility issues that can always play a factor. Now, during my time at VATN, it was clear this team is in sync and they're growing. They had an open floor plan that actually felt functional. Imagine that. You heard the constant buzz of genuine, interested project conversations throughout. Mechanical, including Sophie of course, electrical and software engineering work together in a tight-knit section of the space. When it comes to design for testing, VATN leverages 3D printing super efficiently. They have a 3D printing lab on the first floor of their current space, though they will be expanding to a brand new space for manufacturing ops fairly soon. This lab consists of several Form 4Ls, which is an awesome resin printer with a build window that's around 14 by 7.5 by 14. These printers, while Jesse and I were there, they were basically running nonstop. They also leverage other Formlabs printers for printing fixturing, which naturally comes in handy when you're doing things like, ta-da, heading out on the boat 15 to 30 minutes away to do testing. The team at VATN took us out in the water for 2 testing missions that lasted a couple of hours. They take to the saltwater essentially every day to test something new on one or more of their vessels. Having all of their operations so close to one another and having access to plentiful saltwater in the state of Rhode Island seems to act as one of the many differentiators for the team here. As it turns out, Jesse and I were pretty lucky. Look, I've been rained on before, of course, but the rain held off for a few hours while we were out with the VATN team during their test missions. These testing missions complete the circuit on full product development operations here as the data is fed digitally back to engineering for analysis and possible adjustments. But yeah, speaking of rain, we were also lucky to be out here in July. Like, it gets cold in the Northeast US, and this crew goes out in the coldest months as well as the warmest months. Our microphones really did not love the constant whooshing of our boat bouncing off of the waves, but honestly, we didn't mind. By the end, we were pretty caked with salt as we lived another day in the life of a VATN vessel test run. Thanks again to the entire VATN team for their hospitality while we were on site, and of course for being the feature customer for SOLIDWORKS Delivery Day 2026 FD03.
Take it away.
Boy, this really came in handy, huh?
It sure did.
Yeah, and I gave some to you too.
Yeah, thank
So
you.
yeah, I calculated the cost. I think it'll be like an extra like $70.25. You can expect it and send it to me.
Okay, perfect.
But no, thank you. I hope you enjoyed that. It's definitely a different take on SOLIDWORKS Delivery Day. Once again, super excited to be here at VATN Systems. Thank you to the entire team. If you are interested in checking out more about what's new in FD03, you can go to solidworks.com/delivery. So he's saying SOLIDWORks Design.
I know.
That's it. solidworks.com/delivery to see more on that. We'll be back for FD04 with another episode. But until then, upgrade to FD03 and we'll see you shortly.